Pune and other parts of Maharashtra, what experts have to say, why there's no need to panic. My name is Toya Singh. Let's very quickly take you through everything we have on the show.
National Data Privacy Day. Are we in control of our data? Is data privacy just a myth after all? Or is there the new law will actually solve for some questions? What are the things that all of you must know? We tell you and refresh your memory on that on the program today.
And then, as we told you, we take you down to Maharashtra, where a few regions are grappling with GBS. And we take a look at what it is, what is the Guillain-Barré syndrome, what are the symptoms, what you can do to protect yourself, and what are the things that your community should be doing. We'll take a look at all of this right here on the show.
Also coming up on the program, we take you through an excerpt of an interview with Kangana Ranaut. She opens up about portraying Indira Gandhi in Emergency. Also says, I want the Gandhi family to watch the movie.
This morning, we're going to be talking about something that we think affects all of us, our right to privacy in a digital world. Now, India's been buzzing with discussions about the new Digital Personal Data Protection Bill 2023. It's said that it could transform how we handle and protect our data in this country. But what's really in the bill? Why is it possibly a big deal for you, for me? And how is it changing things from the way they stand? We're going to break it down for you. First, our data, our rules. The bill says that it ensures that data can't be collected without explicit consent. So unless you agree to give something on an app, your data cannot be collected. Platforms must tell us why they need our information, and they can only use it for the purpose that we've agreed to. That's a very important point. Secondly, the bill enforces data storage limitations, meaning that companies can't hoard our information forever.
And once the purpose is served, they have to delete it. That's the important underlining point here. And number three, the power to the people. By that we mean that we'll have the right to access our data, correct our data, or even ask platforms to erase it. So we own our data. The bill also gives us the right to say, no, I don't want my data collected. And here's the big one, strict penalties for platforms that mishandle or leak our data. Fines up to 250 crore for non-compliance as well with the law. But it's not just about the law, right? This bill puts a spotlight on digital literacy as well. It's time for all of us to become smarter about how we share and protect our data. And to talk to us about that, we thought we'll bring in somebody who's actually worked on this bill, not just in Parliament, but in the courts as well. Joining us now is former Minister for State for Electronics and Information, Rajiv Chandrasekhar. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning. Very quickly, wanted to understand that your approach and the law that you have taken to the court really talks about and states it very clearly that privacy is a fundamental right. You've battled this both in court and in Parliament as well. Where do you think today in 2025 India stands vis-a-vis the world on data protection?
You're absolutely right. It's been a long journey to get to where we are. When I started this as a parliamentarian in 2010 and started talking about privacy and the need for citizens' rights to privacy to be protected, there was a significant amount of pushback, and there was a lot of people mockingly referring to this as some elitist view of what is required and what is not required. And I remember, very, very senior editors saying this is all nonsense. And then, of course, there was the Aadhaar click that essentially said that this was all not required. But look, fast forward to 2025, and we've gone through a very important landmark judgment and discovery by the Supreme Court in 2017 August that effectively said that privacy, the right to privacy, is a fundamental right for citizens, like right to free speech, right to life and liberty, right to religion. So we are squarely in pretty unambiguous territory about the fact that every Indian citizen can demand and expect from a platform, from a service provider on the internet, from the government, the right to maintain his or her data in absolutely confidential and with respecting his or her privacy. So that is where we are. Now, to codify that, the government made a couple of attempts to come up with the legislation way back in 2018. Fortunately for me, and this is obviously the stars coming together and maybe my good karma and my Prime Minister, he gave me an opportunity in 2021 to look at that legislation. And we basically junked what was already done and replaced it with a far more contemporary, far better piece of legislation that is simpler.
But could we ask you, there are so many apps where it feels like if you don't give your data, if you don't agree right in the beginning to share your data, whether it's something as simple as your location to other data like photos, videos, if you don't share it, the app doesn't work properly. Is data privacy in that sense a myth?
Look, it's pretty clear in the law that nobody can deny you service because you did not give consent for the data that they sought, which went beyond the delivery of the service. Now, let's assume for a minute, let's use quick commerce as an example. You mentioned it. What do they need from you? Your credit card number and your address to deliver the product.
Right.
If they start asking you what is your date of birth, what is your grandmother's name, what is your grandfather's name, and your age, it goes beyond what is absolutely minimum required. The law specifies you can only seek what is required for you to deliver the service. And if they ask for something more and you say no to it, they cannot deny you the service. This is what the law says. And if anybody who does anything beyond that, they will be ultra virus violating the law. And that is simple. You go complain to the Data Protection Board and they will duke it out with the Data Protection Board and either pay a big check for being violating the law or learn to respect the law. So there is certainly, I agree with you, Sonal, there will be a lot of platforms trying to push the boundary and say, how much of what I was doing earlier can I continue to do? How much can I bet on consumers not knowing their rights? How much can I bet on people who are quick commerce who want to buy something, not really looking at the consent in detail and basically agreeing in a hurry? All these are possible scenarios, but as I've always said, in the digital space, laws evolve, consumer behavior and consumer knowledge and consumer rights, evolve through a detailed understanding. And I have no doubt at some point, all consumers will start understanding very clearly how to make platforms behave consistently with the law or approach the Data Protection Board to make sure platforms behave.
You're right when you say that laws evolve, the digital space constantly evolving at a scaringly fast pace. But if you look at the last couple of years, we've seen some major penalties also come in. Take, for example, the $1.4 billion settlement that Meta had to do. But that happened in states. Uber had to also sort of hit to $324 million penalty actually for falling, not being able to protect the entire, the driver details and all of those things. We've seen some, a lot of landmark judgments come in, but none of them in India. Why don't we hear of these cases in India when we are claiming that our system is so robust?
No, so let's be clear. Those big penalties that you are hearing about are in the US in particular are to do with competition. And these are FTC penalties. In Europe, for example, the competition laws there have made sure that Google and Meta have been penalized for abusing their market power and violating GDPR in some cases in terms of privacy. But a lot of these huge penalties are to do with the fact that they are, because of the very nature of their size and scale, abusing their market power. And I must bring to your attention and to your viewers' attention, the Competition Commission in India very bravely, despite all the power of Google, went through and found a case against Google where, in terms of abuse of market power. So the Competition Commission has established a precedent in India and has signaled to these platforms that India's law and India's jurisprudence is also rapidly evolving to keep in pace with all of these challenges of anti-competitive behavior, abuse of market power, and with the new data protection law and the rules now enacted, also violation of individual privacy.
Okay.
Tell us what your thoughts are, because you've mentioned the US right now. Donald Trump back in office, he's made a lot of statements around data privacy, around data and tech itself. How do you think that's going to bode for the rest of the world?
Look, I think one thing that President, and I've been asked this question before his swearing in, after his election results, and most recently, just a few days ago, I think is good in a lot of ways because it signals that he's doubling down on tech and innovation as an important part of the global economic landscape, the US economic growth, etc., etc. That really is our Prime Minister and our government's vision for the last decade, that innovation, the digital economy is where it's at. A lot of the growth and prosperity that we will get as a nation will come from that. And I think that is what President Trump is also signaling by bringing on board or aligning himself with a lot of these big tech superstars. But having said that, I think we can also safely assume that there will be challenges in our relationship because Elon Musk and all of these people have a fairly American view about the fact that the laws of America must apply to their platforms, and therefore there is the need, as you saw with his recent squabble in Brazil, that it doesn't matter what the local laws are, that US laws and US First Amendment rights must prevail. That is of course not the case. And I have already had an interaction with Elon when he had bought Twitter and I was minister at that time, and we had said very clearly, we have absolutely no problem with what goes on in the US. But in India, there is we are a democracy, the world's biggest democracy. We have a rule of law. And there are laws on our statute book, and every platform, big or small, however connected to President Trump you are or not, you will have to abide by the Indian law. And I think that truth and that reality was the same in 2022-23 as it is in 2025.
I see. But let me go back to the law for a little bit, Chandrasekhar, because data privacy by nature, it's not really something that's constrained by borders or by geographical location. By nature, it is a global issue. So I come back to the point on, isn't there a global consensus required on which way this will go? And if yes, then what will individual country laws really achieve?
Look, this is a pretty deep, profound question, because it addresses how do you regulate the internet? Because countries have geographical borders, and the internet does not. The internet, by its very design, is ubiquitous.
Correct.
Where India finishes in its border, the internet continues on to wherever it goes, to Singapore, to Burma, to Pakistan. So there is this real issue about how do you regulate issues like crime, criminality, user harm, safety on the internet. By the way, that feeling and that concern is getting compounded with AI to the power of infinity. We know today from our own study that cybersecurity, for example, is a multi-jurisdictional crime. That cybersecurity or influence operations are mounted from one jurisdiction and the victims are in a second jurisdiction. The laws in this jurisdiction are different and the laws in this jurisdiction are different. So how do you deal with this? But frankly, in a utopian world, in an ideal world, what you say is right. We must all hug each other and agree and embrace one law. It's not going to happen. You know it, I know it. And therefore, there is only one alternate option, which is to say, we will have all our laws and we figure out a global protocol of harmonizing and making our laws work with each other.
Like an Interpol of sorts, yeah.
How do you look at the entire discussion around AI? Just a few days ago, you had Paul McCartney from the Beatles. He was saying that he worries about artists' rights, especially at a time when it's so easy to imitate an artist's sound. You've had Sam Altman comment on this too. What are your thoughts?
and I say this with I submit this with great humility and with some experience, as somebody who's been around the block in tech for almost 3 decades, that AI is simply the biggest thing to happen to tech in our lifetime. You're much younger than me, but I suspect it is the biggest thing that has happened in your lifetime as well. And and while there is this debate and discussion about AI doing so much more, doing more with less, creating efficiencies of the kind that is unprecedented, solving problems that have not been solved for decades in healthcare, medicine discovery, disease, agriculture, livelihoods, education, all that is true. But I think what is missing today is a discourse on the other side of AI. What are the consequences of AI on our culture, on our society, or on individuals, persons to meaning in life? What are the downsides of AI? What is it going to do? Yes, there is some conversation that has started on deep fakes and how you are able to mimic people online and elsewhere with a startling amount of accuracy and startling amount of detail that has never been done before. So there is, in my opinion, the shifts that technology has made in our lives from the PC to the internet will all seem very pale in comparison to the tectonic shifts that AI is going to bring into lives, livelihoods, and therefore society, culture, and all of that. So I think there is a big discussion that needs to be had. Too much of the discussion today is one-sided about the benefits of AI.
Right. Moving on, I just want to sort of also get your opinion on the nature of how laws are being formed on data privacy. It seems like government is constantly just playing catch up and more of a reactionary mode to what the tech world is really going to throw at us. By that I mean, take this example, it took almost 7 years to sort of get this bill into place and now it's finally getting passed. Are you worried that it'll just always stay outdated in some way, always trying to play catch up?
Look, of course I'm worried because it took almost 7 years for data protection and privacy to be ruled a fundamental right by the Supreme Court, and then it 6 years for the legislation to come out of Parliament. Yeah. So to that extent, I think the world is moving faster than how governments are moving and society is moving. Technology is innovating at warp speed, to use a Star Wars cliche, and we are not. And therefore, to that extent, we are making ourselves vulnerable if we allow the narrative of the good of technology to be unchallenged and untested. There is good that's going to come, certainly, but I think reciprocally, at the same time, there should be a much bigger scrutiny by media such as yourselves, civil society, about how do we deal with the harm aspect, the other side of the coin, the flip side of the coin, on keeping our people safe, not allowing those who have the technology to dominate the future of the world. There should be no concentration of power, concentration of wealth, concentration of tech. Technology should be inclusively available to countries that are poorer in the global south, and it should not become haves and have-nots. And at the same time, the consumers that use this technology must not be exposed to harm and criminality.
Yeah.
Okay, before we let you go, how will you be spending Data Privacy Day?
Yeah, no, so I'm going to spend Data Privacy Day on with some responsibilities that my party has given on Delhi election, but I certainly will spend some time with media such as yourselves and my own platforms to advocate or evangelize to the citizen about what their rights are, and to assert their rights and to establish their rights with all the internet platforms in India. It is something that our government worked hard for, and this is for them to understand and assert as their rights, and hopefully have a much more open, safe, and trusted internet in India, where citizens enjoy the right to a safe and trusted and privacy designed platform. So that's what I will do, and this is an ongoing process Sonal, thank you for doing this because I think it's important that the people whom we pass these laws for are aware of it and start asserting their rights. That is good for everybody, including the platforms.
All right, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, thank you so much for joining us, being candid as ever, calling a spade over there, and happy Data Privacy Day to you. But we're not done with the story just yet.
Right, okay, let's take it to our next guest. Joining us is Ankit Sharma. He's a Senior Director and Head of Solution Engineering at Cybel Inc. It's a globally renowned cybersecurity firm specializing in combating cyber threats and safeguarding sensitive data. Ankit, thank you for joining us early this morning. Ankit, we were just talking a little bit about where data privacy stands today in the country. I want to understand from you, when you look around you, when you see your family members, your friends, as someone who works in big data, what do you see are the most common mistakes people are still making? Because we talk so much about this topic, it feels like there's some awareness around it now. But what are the things you see people continue to still do, the mistakes they do, kind of the warning you could give everyone?
Yeah, thank you for having me. And the thing that I see everywhere is there's still a battle between the ease of use and securing your data, right? People are, so in my family also, I keep on seeing that they are downloading just anything from any source, right? Which is asking for any sort of permission and they're allowing it, right? On their mobile phones that, okay, this app is asking for this kind of permission, allow it. It's just making my life easy. Another issue that I see everywhere is that, now it's time. You guys have just discussed about the deepfakes, right? But deepfake also works on the historic data, right? You have to feed certain inputs to the deepfake to make it work properly, right? So if I'm having your video, I know when you are talking what kind of eye motions you are making or your lip movements and all those things, then only I can create a deepfake video about you, right? So now it's a time to limit the data sharing. Whatever you're sharing on social media, restrict it to the guys, who are really in a close connection, right? Adjust your privacy settings. Since the early ages, we are talking about the importance of having a strong password, enabling two-factor authentication wherever possible. Enable biometric two-factor authentication, right? Don't reuse the same password every time, right? And the most important thing is keep a close look on, whatever financial statements that you are having. Set up alerts whenever there is any kind of email, whenever somebody does any kind of a login or try to do any kind of a transaction or something like that, you immediately need that kind of alert to inform the authorities, right?
Sure. Ankit, can I ask you then this question? You make a very important point on limiting access and what you throw out on social media, but you're talking to a generation that lives online. Yeah. They are vlogging every minute of their life. They are blogging about all emotions, good, bad, ugly. To them, what do you have to say?
Use your common sense, as much as possible, because right now we are seeing a lot of deepfake videos, right? A lot of pornographic material being shared on the internet by morphing the images and things like that. So the one good thing that, I feel that current generation has is they have some sense of, knowledge to differentiate between a deepfake video and a normal video, right? They have seen so much of the stuff, but what I would suggest to the current generation is that, obviously, there are a lot of guys who are actually earning from it, right? They can't just stop their online presence.
It's their marketplace, yeah.
It's their marketplace, it's their livelihood, right? So, but yeah, there are certain things that, just trust on the news or the videos which you are getting from the, the legit sources. I'll only trust on the sources, on the videos which I'm getting from CNN for that matter. I'll not trust on the videos which is coming from a local news channel or something like that, right? And once, you are sure that, this is authenticated and this is something which is valid, right? Then only do a resharing of that. The biggest problem right now that we are having in this social media age is the problem of reshare, right? A fake video, somebody sees it, they have thousands of followers, lakhs of followers, they reshare it. The lakhs of followers, so that is the biggest problem right now, which the police department is also facing. We are working a lot with police department to tackle these kind of issues, to identify which was the source who created that video, because it has been retweeted multiple times, right? So yeah, so there are certain ethical, ways that everybody has to be digitally literate now. That's what I feel.
Ankit, give a shout out next to the apps and the platforms that you think consumers can use to help them in this fight. Years ago, Truecaller was that thing. You could actually verify when you got a call where it was coming from. I want to understand, for those of us who are watching who are maybe 50, maybe 60, the mothers, fathers at home right now, what are the apps, what are the websites that you use?
First of all, simple things, right? Naming the apps and all those things, there are multiple such things. But I'll give you how I actually select what to use, what not to use. Whenever I'm on the internet and whenever somebody asks me any kind of my personal detail, or whenever somebody asks, any kind of financial transactions to be made, I always look out for the HTTPS thing and the URL. If the site is HTTPS and they might be having that lockpad thing, everybody can see it. That means it is the communication that is going to happen on this particular website is going to be encrypted. It's going to be secure, right? So this is the best way to identify, and that also means that somebody has gone to the certification authorities to get the certificate, right? So you can actually catch hold of those bad guys. So always look out for the HTTPS things in the URL, right? That lockpad kind of a thing. One thing that what I follow is, I don't know if you guys will understand this analogy or not, but there are legit marketplaces like app stores and the Google Play Store and everything, right? So these guys have a financial motive to have the secure apps on their platform, right? They invest a lot on the security, right? So, and the other thing is, if you are just going to download apps from the untrusted sources, they don't have any such motive. Only thing that they want is their agent to get installed in your machine, and then they can do whatever they want, right? It is same, like, earlier, so till now we are having antiviruses for so many years, right? But still we can't able to catch the 0-day, right? It is because they don't have any kind of a signature, right? The security is not being enhanced to that kind of a thing. Same thing is with all these deepfakes, digital, and these fraud related stuff, right? Everything is going to be new, right? It is constantly evolving. So yeah, but when we talk about the apps and everything, I think the only way is, use the legit sources, look out for the HTTPS options, right? And then there are apps. You can always see how many downloads are there.
Ankit, we're running out of time, unfortunately. We'll have to have you back, because I think, those are such important keys. Something as simple as, when you're going to a website, check out that web address of the website, go right to the left-hand side on the top and see, does it say HTTPS? Is there a lock sign? That's a very, very helpful one move, but we'll talk to you more in the future just to understand what else we should be doing to make sure we're secure in every way.
Sure.
All right, thanks to Ankit for joining us on that. With that, we're going to slip into a very quick break. Coming up on the other side, the latest on the JBS outbreak, 100 cases reported, 1 death, unfortunately, as well. We'll take you through everything you need to know on the other side of this very quick break.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Sunday he would impose sweeping retaliatory measures on Colombia, including tariffs, sanctions, and travel bans. The move comes after the South American country turned away 2 U.S. military aircrafts, with migrants being deported as part of the new U.S. administration's immigration crackdown. Trump's swift action appeared aimed at making an example of Colombia, to dissuade other countries from defying him on deportation flights. He said Colombian President Gustavo Petro's refusal jeopardized U.S. national security, and has directed his administration to take retaliatory measures. That includes imposing emergency 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States, which will go up to 50% in 1 week, as well as a travel ban and visa revocations on Colombian government officials and its allies. Petro condemned the practice, suggesting it treated migrants like criminals. And in response, Colombia threatened a 50% tariff on U.S. goods. According to the State Department, The United States is Colombia's largest trade and investment partner, and Colombia is also the U.S.'s third largest trade partner in Latin America. Mexico also refused a request last week to let a U.S. military aircraft land with migrants. Trump did not take similar action against Mexico, the U.S.'s largest trade partner, but has said he was thinking of imposing 25% duties on imports from Canada and Mexico on February 1st.
Si los deportan de otro país, deben que recibirlos acá porque este es el país de ellos. Que el presidente no acepta eso, pero si uno viene al país de uno, ¿cómo es posible que no lo acepte? Eso es ilógico, ¿no?
Nos afecta como tal porque lo que vamos a dejar es de recibir como tal toda la gente que está exportando sus mercancías, lo que va a hacer es detener completamente el comercio de nosotros como colombianos ante los Estados Unidos, o sea, nos va a perjudicar completamente.
Pues la problemática es que el señor Petro debe pensar mejor con cabeza fría, no tanto ideológicamente, sino qué nos conviene como país. Entonces creo que toca pensar más.
It's not a big change. We'll see the numbers, but the conditions have been very similar or are very similar. It's about, the beginning of a new administration and also ideological difference as well. But it's going to be interesting to see how much the United States can do and how massive are the deportations that he is promising. Colombia is not the main trading partner, the most important trading partner with the United States. However, because of the asymmetries between the two economies, of course, the United States can impose for a short term tariffs on the imports from Colombia, and this is going to be devastating for the country. So it's an instrument to pressure this nation in any single form. And this is also a sign to other countries, particularly a sign.
Welcome back. Let's take you through the latest coming in on the GBS outbreak, the recent outbreak of the GBS in Pune, where more than 100 people have been confirmed death, and we are just getting in news of one reported death as well. People are, of course, worried, but medical experts are emphasizing that GBS is a treatable condition, urging public to stay informed and not panic. So we thought we should sort of dive deep into understanding it a little bit. So what exactly is GBS? Now, GBS is a rare neurological disorder where the body's immune system mistakenly attacks the nerves. This can cause weakness in the limbs, in the neck, face, eyes, tingling or numbness, or difficulty in walking, swallowing, or even breathing in severe cases.
Now, the illness can appear suddenly and it usually progresses over a period of 4 weeks. But sometimes you even have instances take place where the case worsens very, very rapidly. It doesn't take that 4-week period, much, much more rapidly, and then you require intensive care. Now, we thought, as we're seeing it play out in Pune right now, this big question, is it an outbreak or not? We wanted to get clarity on that. Health authorities are suspecting a possible link to a bacterium that can spread through contaminated food or water or poor hygiene practices. In most cases, patients are reporting symptoms such as diarrhea, respiratory issues before it's coming and becoming clear that they have GBS. And investigations are ongoing to confirm why exactly the outbreak happened in the first place.
All right, so lots of questions there, and also understanding, is it only a Pune phenomena? Is it only happening in Maharashtra? Are there other places as well? Dr. Kunal Bahari is joining us now. Hi, Doctor. Good morning. Thank you so much for speaking with us on this very critical issue. He's a clinical director and HOD neurology at the Maringo Asia Hospital here in Delhi NCR. So, Dr. Kunal, first up, GBS has been around for a while. We've heard very far and few cases, but suddenly for an outbreak to happen, what are the reasons leading to it?
Yeah, good morning. So first of all, GBS, as you said, it's a Guillain-Barré syndrome. So it's one of the threatening neurological disease which we see quite often. And why it happened? Why now there is a term called outbreak of GBS in the Pune. So usually, if we see the cause of this deadly disease, we see this disease only usually after infections, and usually we see two types of infections, whether it's a gastrointestinal infection or the respiratory infection. So this is not the first time we see the outbreak. Previously also there had been outbreak of GBS in many countries, like when there was a pandemic of COVID, there was an outbreak in Italy, North Italy. Simultaneously, there was a association with the Zika virus that was in the French. So usually there are definitely some viruses like Zika virus, flu virus, seasonal flu viruses, COVID viruses, and the most important, the bacteria, which nowadays in Pune, which we are seeing, is the Campylobacter jejuni, C. jejuni. So this is a bacteria which often leads to gastrointestinal infection. The early symptoms which led to are usually pain, abdomen, diarrhea, fever, which usually last for a day or two. After this infective period, usually in next 2 or 3 weeks, usually these symptoms happens leading to GBS. So usually it starts with tingling sensation, pain, weakness, and usually there are many symptoms which patient usually ignore. So that is more very critical not to ignore these symptoms, because usually these are the initial crucial symptoms which need to be understood and which can lead to more deadly disease, this GBS syndrome.
Okay. Doctor, tell us, we know it's an outbreak, but is it contagious? And by that I mean, can one human give it to another human?
No, it's not a contagious disease, because usually it spreads due to fecal-oral route, due to poor hygiene. We were consuming the poor drinking water, the poor sanitation, and all this leads to outbreak. So it's not a contagious, it's not an environmental borne disease. It's more of a fecal-oral route because of consumption of poor controlled water, where we are consuming uncooked food, meats. So these are the things which can usually lead to this disease, GB syndrome, because of this poor hygiene. It's not a contagious. It's not such a disease which will spread from one human to another human, or which is spreading from animal to humans. This is not such disease. It's mainly because of poor hygienic conditions leading to this GB syndrome.
Okay. Yeah, in fact, there have been studies that said that they found E. coli in one of the wells in Pune near Khadakwasla, which actually caused all of this. That is being under investigation as well. But Dr. Kunal, I have a question. These symptoms are fairly normal. The weather is just about changing. A lot of people are expected to sort of catch a flu. I seem to be getting something myself. So in conditions like these, how do you know that what you have is GBS, or should you rush to the doctor, and when can one just take some home remedies and rectify it? And second, I want to understand, a lot of these cases that have been reported are of kids who are below 7 years of age, and are those who are over 50 years of age. Are those the critical age brackets as well?
So let me answer you the first question. Usually we need to understand that our country, India, is one of the hotspot usually in the infectious diseases. So there are definitely hotspots are there, like if we see Latin America, part of Africa, our India, Bangladesh. Why I'm saying hotspots? Because in these countries there are a lot of biodiversity, poor hygienic conditions, biodiversity, a lot of climatic changes. So these countries are more prone or these outbreaks of these infectious diseases. Many infectious diseases because of all these factors: biodiversity, poor hygiene, lack of sanitation, and in such outbreaks like this happened, GB syndrome. So as you said, initial part, this can happen in the manifestation of the outbreak, and this can also happen as a seasonal variation also, because many times we see sporadic GBS cases in simple seasonal flu. So in seasonal flu also we can see the GB syndrome, and usually numbers gets increased during the months of from July to September, when the flu numbers gets increased, when there is a weather climate change is there, where there is a more of rainy season is there. Because on these conditions also, this can trigger GB syndrome. So it's not an outbreak, it's a sporadic cases. Outbreaks happens when there is a good number of cases, when there is a good number of community spread is there, when we say it is outbreak. Now the distribution of age group. So usually GB syndrome happens in the bimodal age group. Usually first age group is there in the mean of adolescent from 10 years to 25 years. Second age group is usually from more than 50 years of age group. But as you said, in children from 5 to 15 years of, it's more dangerous. In this age group, also in the elderly age group. Why it is so? Because already our immune system is not very well developed in these two peaks. And that is the reason it quietly more we see more of dreadful disease, GB syndrome manifestations are more during these two age group brackets, in the young age group and the elderly age group.
Okay.
Doctor, list out for our audiences very quickly what they should stay away from, because right now there are a lot of WhatsApp rumors circulating. Some saying stay away from paneer, some saying stay away from all food from the outside. Just list out, please, very quickly for us.
So first of all, I will just say don't be panicked. We have to just follow some guidelines. We just follow some do's and don'ts. Usually, we have to keep a safe practice. Take a proper hygienic food, pure drinking water. Take up proper sanitation. We should avoid eating the uncooked or unhealthy meats. Many times we see eating foods from the places where there has not been properly hygienic foods. So that things we have to take care. And the most important, we have to take care of our hand sanitation. That is very, very important. That we followed even in the COVID era. The only thing which we used to say, take a proper hand wash. We need proper hand washing with soap and water. We need to disinfectant. So that is more important in this case. We have to avoid spread by just taking small these few things, because what we can do is just to prevent the infection from this Campylobacter jejuni. So in this case, if we avoid infecting from this organism, definitely we can prevent much dreadful disease like GB syndrome.
Okay, Dr. Kunal, very quickly, sorry, before we let you go, you operate in Delhi NCR. Could you give us some quick anecdotal, reference on, are you picking up any cases or any symptoms here?
So usually nowadays, as I said, usually we see sporadic cases. Mainly, we are not seeing the good number of cases anytime. But definitely, if I see the numbers, numbers are not very far, very high. Even in the cases of Campylobacter jejuni, if I say the number, so hardly in one, if we see the 1,000 Campylobacter jejuni infected patient, only one will develop GB syndrome. Not all will develop.
Okay.
So it's not a good number. Definitely, if I see the incidence also, hardly we see in one to two cases per 1 lakh population. So we don't see so much of numbers GB syndrome. That's the reason there is no need to panic. Only thing is, we should identify these closely symptoms. If anything happens to any patient, like some tingling sensation, weakness, immediately follow to a neurologist. That's I'm saying, because in the initial only, if you pick these GB syndromes symptoms, definitely we can prevent the late complications of GB syndrome, and that can prevent such manifestation.
Got it.
Doctor, thank you, and thank you for telling our audiences so comprehensively what we can do to better take care of ourselves.
All right, with that, let's move over and take you through stories that are coming in from India and across the globe. We'll begin with what's happening in Australia, where the Australian scientists have newly classified a bigger species of the Sydney funnel web spider, one of the world's deadliest, saying that the new species could inject more venom. In the research released on Monday, the new funnel web species has earned the nickname of the Big Boy and was first discovered in early 2000s near Newcastle by Can, a spider enthusiast and former head of the Spiders of Australian Reptile Park.
Thousands of dead fish, mainly anchovies, were found on a beach on the region of the Arica and Parinacota, northern Chile, prompting a cleanup operation. This is due to health risks posed by all of those decomposing fish bodies. Videos show thousands of dead fish washing up along the shoreline.
A large artwork depicting the sun has gone on display in London, adding a new light in an elaborate hall Dubbed by some as the Sistine Chapel of the UK, Helios, named after the ancient Greek and Roman sun god, is the latest piece of artwork by British artist Luke Jerram, adding a new light to the painted hall. Measuring 7 meters in diameter, the Helios installed is internally lit and on show amid the interior of the painted hall of the Old Royal Naval College in Greenwich.
Actress Kelly Rutherford, musician Pixie Lott and other stars attend Schiaparelli's Paris fashion show. And among the stars in attendance was Carla Bruni, the former model and wife of the former French President Nicolas Sarkozy. Celebrities flocked to see the Schiaparelli fashion show in Paris on Monday as haute couture is ongoing in the French capital.
Selena Gomez shared an emotional video on an Instagram story breaking down in tears over US President Donald Trump's latest immigration crackdown. The 32-year-old star posted the heartfelt clip on Monday, January 27th, alongside the caption, "I'm sorry," with a Mexican flag emoji. In the now deleted video, Gomez expressed her anguish over the ongoing situation, saying, "All my people are getting attacked. The children, I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I will try everything, I promise."
Those heartbreaking images coming in. We're going to head into a quick break. On the other side, Kangana on playing Indira Gandhi, and she talks a little bit about her own thoughts, obviously, after the release of Emergency. Indira Gandhi Avatar, she speaks to our colleague Anand Narsman.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Sunday he would impose sweeping retaliatory measures on Colombia, including tariffs, sanctions, and travel bans. The move comes after the South American country turned away 2 U.S. military aircrafts, with the migrants being deported as part of the new U.S. administration's immigration crackdown. Trump's swift action appeared aimed at making an example of Colombia, to dissuade other countries from defying him on deportation flights. He said Colombian President Gustavo Petro's refusal jeopardized U.S. national security, and has directed his administration to take retaliatory measures. That includes imposing emergency 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States, which will go up to 50% in 1 week, as well as a travel ban and visa revocations on Colombian government officials and its allies. Petro condemned the practice, suggesting it treated migrants like criminals. And in response, Colombia threatened a 50% tariff on U.S. goods. According to the State Department, the United States is Colombia's largest trade and investment partner, and Colombia is also the U.S.'s third largest trade partner in Latin America. Mexico also refused a request last week to let a U.S. military aircraft land with migrants. Trump did not take similar action against Mexico, the U.S.'s largest trade partner, but has said he was thinking of imposing 25% duties on imports from Canada and Mexico on February 1st.
Si los deportan de otro país, deben que recibirlos acá porque este es el país de ellos. Que el presidente no acepta eso, pero si uno viene al país de uno, ¿cómo es posible que no lo acepte? Eso es ilógico, ¿no?
nos afecta como tal porque lo que vamos a dejar es de recibir como tal toda la gente que está exportando sus mercancías, lo que va a hacer es detener completamente el comercio de nosotros como colombianos ante los Estados Unidos, o sea, nos va a perjudicar completamente.
Pues la problemática es que el señor Petro debe pensar mejor con cabeza fría.
Welcome back to the Breakfast Club. Let's take you next to something slightly different. In an interview with CNN News 18's Anna Narasimhan, Kangana Ranaut candidly shared her own personal experiences while making her movie Emergency. She's spoken to us about her experience while portraying Indira's life and the Gandhi's decision to impose emergency back in 1975.
Now, Kangana also said that she wants the entire Gandhi family to actually watch this film. Listen in to the excerpt of this conversation.
जो शिद्दत आप अपने हर प्रोजेक्ट में दिखाती हैं वो इस प्रोजेक्ट में भी देखने को मिला। पर मैं सबसे पहले आपसे पूछूं, जब आपने इस प्रोजेक्ट को उठाया, सब्जेक्ट को उठाया, तो आपको नहीं लगा कि आप शेर की गुफा में घुस रही हैं?
बिल्कुल, ये बहुत ही सेंसिटिव प्रोजेक्ट है और आपने देखा होगा ऐसी चीजें लोग इमरजेंसी को देखने के बाद में कह रहे हैं हमें पता ही नहीं था, ये बहुत ज्यादा सुनने को मिल रही थी। इनफैक्ट अबाउट मिसेस गांधी, ऐसा लोगों को लगता कि ब्रीफ टाइम शायद एक बार प्राइम मिनिस्टर रही होंगी, एक ब्रीजिंग थ्रू हर वन टर्म एज अ वेरी प्रिविलेज्ड पॉलिटिकल दैट शी वाज। लोग समझ नहीं सकते कि 30-40 साल का पॉलिटिकल करियर और क्या उनका उस टाइम पे जज्बा था, जोश था, और उसके बाद में क्या क्या उन्होंने स्कैंडल्स किए, कंट्रोवर्सीज की, जिनकी आज देश विदेश में इतने स्कैंडलस और इतने कंट्रोवर्शियल नेता शायद ही कोई रहे होंगे जितने कि मिसेस गांधी। एंड कंप्लीटली सिनेमैटिक, जिसे कहते हैं, इस इज लाइक अ ड्रीम स्क्रीन प्ले इज मेड ऑफ such people who are just so controversial.
पर इस
rarely make history.
पर इस ड्रीम स्क्रिप्ट ने आपको काफी नाइटमेयर्स दिए। इसका अनुमान लगाया था आपने?
नहीं, मैंने कलाकार मासूमियत से जो है वो इसमें मैं पूरी तरह से डूब गई और फिर कई ऑब्स्टिकल्स आए। पॉलिटिकली ये फिल्म किसी के साथ अलाइन नहीं करती है, ना राइट के साथ, तो वो भी एक बहुत बड़ा तो हर तरफ से जो है मुझे पॉलिटिकली ऑब्वियसली एवरीबॉडी स्केप्टिकल के कि ये फिल्म ऐसे बनाया क्यों। तो बट एट द सेम टाइम आई जस्ट फील दैट एज एन आर्टिस्ट आई हैड टू डू दिस वाज माय कॉलिंग। कोई लॉजिकल रीजन, मैं हमेशा कहती हूँ जहाँ पे मैजिक है वहाँ लॉजिक नहीं होता, और लॉजिक होता है वहाँ मैजिक नहीं होता। सो दैट इज हाउ इट इज।
यहाँ तो मैजिक तो था, लेकिन जैसे आपने कहा ना लेफ्ट की है ना राइट की है, ये सेंट्रिस्ट होने का आपका यू प्लान्ड इट दैट वे कि जब आपने रिसर्च किया, जब आपने किरदार को समझा और इंदिरा जी की मनस्थिति को समझा कि कहाँ से आई और वो सत्ता की बात किसने उनको बताई और कहाँ से उसका मैनिफेस्टेशन था, बहुत डीप रूटेड था ये साइकी में उनके। तो जब आपने ये सब समझा तब आपको लगा कि नहीं, जो है वही बताऊंगी, अब जो जहां जिधर। कैसे आपने सोचा इसको?
नहीं, वो जो है तो बताना तो वही पड़ेगा, क्योंकि क्योंकि यू कांट मैनिपुलेट फैक्ट्स, व्हाई वुड यू? अगर आप आ रहे हैं, यू नीड टू प्रॉपर डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, आप करेंगे भी क्यों मैनिपुलेट, क्योंकि जितनी खूबसूरत एक वास्तविकता होती है, हम उतनी कभी भी बैठ के भी हम इतनी स्क्रीन प्ले नहीं लिख सकते जैसे कि, और जो इत्तेफाक, जो कोइंसिडेंसेस रियल लाइफ में होते हैं और स्क्रीन प्ले में हम करते, जब ये हम हमेशा कहते हैं कि जो हमें रियल जिंदगियां होती हैं उनसे बहुत प्रेरणा मिलती है। इसी तरह से मिसेस गांधी की जो लाइफ है वो चाहे स्कैंडलस रही हो, लेकिन जब एज अ कलाकार आप किसी भी अपने सब्जेक्ट को अप्रोच करते हैं, यू हैव टू बी डीपली सेंसिटिव। अब फिर चाहे वो गब्बर सिंह हो, चाहे वो ठाकुर हो, चाहे वो कोई भी किरदार हो, तो उसी तरह से मिसेस गांधी को बहुत डीपली वो किया, उनकी अच्छाइयाँ बुराइयाँ, और ये चीज़ लोगों को सबसे ज़्यादा अच्छी लग रही है कि मैंने जिस संवेदनशीलता से क्वीन के किरदार को या थलैवी के किरदार को या दत्तों के किरदार को और मेरी एज एन आर्टिस्ट सबसे ज़्यादा जो मुझे प्यार मिलता है लोगों से और सम्मान मिलता है वो आई थिंक इट्स माय एब्सोल्यूट कंपैशन.
Okay, next we take you from that to a special section on financial markets powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. Let's take a look first at markets. GIFT Nifty indicating a stable opening for Indian stock markets. US markets have ended sharply lower on persistent selling in technology stocks in particular. Asian markets were mixed today. They're taking cues from the losses in the US stocks. Gold and crude oil prices are steady as traders focus on upcoming US Fed Reserve interest rate decisions. Now, if we take a look at a sector in particular, let's look at India's rising power demand. It's being fueled by growing consumption taking place across all sectors. Now, to meet this increasing demand, coal requirement is also going up as thermal power remains the main contributor. Higher volumes are being sold through e-auctions. This initiative is expected to drive coal offtake, particularly from the non-power sector, which has historically depended on imports. Now, you can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about India's power industry and various other actionable insights on the market. It's the premier destination for all investing views and financial insights you're ever going to need, brought to you by Money Control. And with that, we are drawing our show to a close. Do join us tomorrow as we take a look at something different. For now, have a beautiful rest of your day.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Sunday he would impose sweeping retaliatory measures on Colombia, including tariffs, sanctions, and travel bans. The move comes after the South American country turned away 2 U.S. military aircrafts, with migrants being deported as part of the new U.S. administration's immigration crackdown. Trump's swift action appeared aimed at making an example of Colombia, to dissuade other countries from defying him on deportation flights. He said Colombian President Gustavo Petro's refusal jeopardized U.S. national security and has directed his administration to take retaliatory measures. That includes imposing emergency 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States, which will go up to 50% in 1 week, as well as a travel ban and visa revocations on Colombian government officials and its allies. Petro condemned the practice, suggesting it treated migrants like criminals. And in response,